Hello and welcome to Chess with Simon. I'm Simon,
And I'm Liam.
and tonight we are taking a look at Cumnor 1 versus Cowley 1, and we're going to go through the games one by one. Is that not right, Liam?
We're going to try.
We are going to try. We're going to try our very best. By way of introduction, Liam, tell the viewers about yourself.
I'm Liam Glenn. I'm an average chess player of okay ability. I captain Cumnor 1 and I have ginger hair.
Liam's a supersonic chess player and has captained Cumnor 1 from obscurity to cup glory, promotion to the first division. It's all happened. And we are going to take a look at Tom Shepherd v. Tom's opponent is called
Mohammed
1918.
1918.
Hang on, no, let's get it right. Mohammed
1918.
Ismailov, and he is the highest graded player playing tonight. He is a really good player, both in terms of ECF grade and in terms of his online grade.
Online grade.
Should we have a look at?
I don't.
Go on,
Oh no,
Liam.
I was trying to say I've never actually met him before. I think I've met all the other players at Cowley. I had a quick look. I couldn't really see him as an active member of Cowley, so maybe he's a bit of a ringer.
Well, he's obviously very good at chess. So I'm going from the beginning, Liam, of this game. So Tom's played d4. So by move 5, we've got an exchange Slav. We've got perfect symmetry with an open C file.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, exchange Slav.
Yes.
Tom's played what I think is probably the most popular move, bishop f4, bishop f5. So completely matching e3, e6, queen b3. I mean, you can play moves like so I'm on move 8, Liam. You can play moves like bishop d3 there, which is really solid and possibly heading for quite an equal position. Queen b3, queen b6 takes queens, and now Tom has pinned the knight. Black's played knight d7. White's castle. So, I mean, my first reflections on this is that the good news for White is that Black's got double pawns on the queen side. And the good news for Black is that Black's got the open A file. And the good news for the viewers is there's lots more to go. What do you think?
That's the spirit. Obviously, symmetrical openings often suit White, don't they? Because you can have symmetry up until a point, such as queen takes queen. There's no normal symmetry because the queen can't take back. So it generally suits White, doesn't it? And I would kind of happen to agree in this as well. For example, knight. So, for example, Black can play bishop b4. He could do, I suppose, but a3 means that the bishop has to move again. So you wouldn't really want to swap that bishop for a knight, I wouldn't say.
It's Black's move, isn't it?
Yeah. So after castle, so he's castled. So I slightly prefer White.
Think about bishop b4. Bishop b4, a3. If Black does... Go on.
Sorry, well, the bishop's now moved to e7.
E7.
Well, there's nowhere else for it to go, was there? I don't like bishop b4 because of a3.
Yeah, I mean certainly.
He just has to go back.
D6, c5, and a3 look like bad squares for that bishop. I'm sure he wouldn't play that. So you're right. Bishop e7 looks right, and then, I mean, what's really? Should we try and see? I mean, so the weak point is the b6 pawn, but it's currently defended by the knight on d7.
Yes.
White doesn't really have any weaknesses that you would worry about.
No. I still think you'd probably end up playing a3, or maybe you can play a4, and just because the bishop is out as an outpost where the bishop is on b5, isn't there? So if you play a4, it kind of blocks. The outpost is solid.
I
I
think
mean,
you
a
end
knight
up.
might get there.
I think you end up playing a3 as well. I think
Hmm.
because otherwise you just can't free the rook, right?
Yeah, and one of them rooks going to have to go to the C file.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think that's one to watch. I think my Ian Bush. Well, that was all very easy tonight. Famous last words. In other words, everyone's online. I think he's saying
Yes, he's
he's
saying
not.
everyone's actually nobody set the board wrong.
He's not saying we've won. He's
No, not yet.
saying we're playing chess.
Everybody is okay at the moment. I think he's what he's
Yeah.
trying to say.
Should we have a look at Cowley Mike
Yep. So
versus
this is
Nick?
board number 2.
Yeah. So this is. I mean, I think this is fascinating. So as we discussed, this started off as a semi-Slav and transposed into a Dutch stonewall. Um, I'm going to go from. Should we just go from the beginning? So,
Far away.
so D4, D5, Queen's Gambit, Slav defense, C6, Knight F3, Knight F6, and then E3, which is not unknown, but a little bit offbeat. So, Knight C3 would be normal here, right? Knight
Yes, I'd say so.
C3 would be normal. Um, But E3 means that if black takes on C4, white can take straight back on C4. That's the point. So it's narrowing black's options.
Yes, yeah. There's not really much to worry about though. You can't generally hang on to that pawn, can you? Black can't hang on to the C pawn, can he?
Well, only in lines like the note boom or I mean, generally it's quite rare. That's exactly right. So more typical would be Knight C3, and then white can still play the Botvinnik against the semi-Slav. This is sort of white can play the Meron, but not the Botvinnik. That's the point. Well, that's a point. But anyway, Nick's played the semi-Slav, and then Mike's played B3, which I think is also an uncommon move.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that before. I'm not saying I've never seen anything like that before, but I guess the dark square bishop is quite bad, so he just wants to stick it to a good square. But yeah, normally get moves like knight c3 or bishop d3 kind of
Exactly.
thing. So
That's exactly right. I mean, I think the logic is, as you say, that the bishop's locked in. So the bishop's locked in. So I guess it's heading for possibly a3. Although does it get lost on a3? So if white moves it to a3 now on let's say we put in knight a4, I think it gets lost, doesn't it? Because if it goes to a3
the
on
queen
move
check.
6, black takes, white takes, then there's a check on a5 which wins the knight.
Queen can block
so
though.
So actually, it's really heading for b2. A3
I don't think so because the queen can block. Here's the white queen can block, can't it? On b2 on d2.
Walk me through that.
So whatever black plays, knight a3, queen a5 check, queen b2 blocks, and he hasn't got time to take the
Yeah,
knight.
that can't be on move 6 because we've got knight e4 on the board.
Oh, sorry, I'm a move behind.
Yeah. No,
sorry, there's a. Okay.
It's because we can't both see the same board. It's absolutely fine.
Sorry.
But
How far have you got to? What move are you on?
so basically, at the moment, I am looking at white's 6th move.
6th. Okay, I was one move behind, Simon. Sorry. About
that. And
so
he's played for 6th move. He's played knight bd2, which is very sensible. Not yet committing the bishop.
Yes.
But this means the bishop's not going to a3 because the knight was the one that was defending that.
Yes. So, now you can't block with the queen correctly.
Yeah. I'm bringing Zoom back up. Actually, hang on. Got to manage there. Okay. So, all right. So, knight bd2. Nick's played f5. So, Nick's played into a sort of Dutch system. I think this is good for black, actually. I think this is good for black.
I quite like it. It gives them quite a few attacking chances, and it's also solid in the centre, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be an interesting game, I think. With the queen's bishop locked in. I like this for black.
I'll make an assumption that f4 is coming soon for black.
Oh, is that you think?
Yeah, I think so. Well, it opens up, doesn't it? I suppose.
I mean, well, can we just look at a few more moves?
Yeah.
Because so we got Bishop D3, Knight D7, White Castles, Bishop D6. I mean, that's looking really attacking, isn't it?
It certainly is. That f file.
Bishop B2, Queen. I see why you think F4 is coming. Yeah. Queen F6, Knight back to E1, and then Black's castling. So yeah, I completely see what you mean. I think F4 looks very logical in this sort of position. I mean, it's Black's move, right? So do you think? Do you think Black's next move is F4?
I've actually got it as white to play.
It's White's move. Yeah, good point. Okay.
So okay, change that question around. What does white play instead?
So I'll tell you what White plays instead. You know what White's going to play, don't you?
You can hit the knight with f3. Bit dangerous though. Or you could just play f4.
He's going to play F4, dude. White's going to play F4 every day of the week.
Well, he might have played an intermezzo move, an in-between move by playing it to f3 first.
I don't think F3 is out of the question. I mean, F3. So let's just have a look at that. F3, Black takes on D2, Queen takes on D2. Then the question is, what happens after Queen H4? But G3 works.
Yeah.
So you can save it because G3 works because you can't sack on G3 because the Queen can block.
The Queen can block, yes.
Or the Knight can block.
G2.
Yeah. Or the Knight can block. So there's no sack. So let's just look at. So how about this? F3. How about Queen H4 in that position? So F3, Queen H4.
So yeah.
That's pretty bad. F3, Queen H4. What's White got?
Not a lot. He's a bit under the cosh, isn't he? Because the mate is threatened on. Oh, he's played H4.
Yeah.
He's played F4.
F4. We knew it.
So blocks the bishops in. The bishops are going to have a bad time, aren't they? Both bishops, all four bishops are going to have a bad day.
Yeah, it's not a good day for bishops. I know Mike. Well, I think Mike's planning G4 in this position. Will be my guess.
That's quite interesting.
Because, well, if it was White's move, I mean, I don't know if it's good at this point, but it's certainly playable. I mean, well, it needs looking at. I mean, right now, G4, F takes G, and then Black. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's playable. It would need a bit more thought, but it's certainly a candidate for something Black needs to think about because it's also Mike's style.
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe if it was straight away, Black would be able to play Queen G6. You know, it's probably not straight away, but it could be because the point is, how else is this game going to progress? It's only going to. It looks to me like it's going to progress either by opening the C file by taking on D5, or by playing C5 and then opening the B file, or it's going to progress by him playing G4. You know, there's not much else. Otherwise, it's so locked.
It is so locked. I mean, no pieces or pawns off, and the pawn structure is nearly symmetrical again. But
yeah, exactly.
I'm certainly around the middle anyway, the centre of the board.
Should we have a look at Nigel?
Yeah, Nigel.
Maybe from the beginning.
Yep. Another D4 opening.
Yeah. So it's a good solid London system.
It's very in vogue at the moment, isn't it? The London system. They also be playing it. Well, the Grandmaster seem to be playing it a lot.
Yeah, Magnus, Ferrugia plays it. A lot of people playing it.
And so is Nigel.
And Dreco. Now Dreco played in the Cowley Blitz.
Yes, he did.
I think I've been through one of his games. Let's have a look who Dreco is.
Wasn't my game against him, was it?
You know what, Liam? I don't think I've done that one yet. Is that one worth looking at?
I can't remember. I beat him, and I'm trying to remember now, off the top of my head. I think I played him twice, and I think I've got one win and one loss against him.
All right.
Considering I know how strong he is now, I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah. You should be. Although it doesn't surprise me. I mean, you're good too. Let's have a nose.
Blitz is very much a. I don't know. Do you think it's an equaler? Equalizes grading. It certainly makes it more easy to blunder.
Yes,
Strong player to
exactly.
blunder.
I think that's exactly the point. It's easier to blunder. Yeah.
So that's right. All right, so where are you starting off from then?
So
London, and your move.
So, by the way, I'm okay. All right. G6. Okay, H. I'm a bit surprised by. Oh, do you know why H3's on the board? Don't you? So this is move 4.
Yeah. Okay. Give
H3's
me a
on the
lesson,
board.
Simon.
Sorry.
Give me a lesson.
Well, I'm not claiming expertise on this, but the point about obviously H3 is to hide the bishop at some point to stop the bishop getting chopped off by the king's knight.
Yes.
So I mean, let's just say, for instance, White played knight F3 on the 4th move.
Okay.
Then what we need to look at is what happens after knight H5, bishop G5, H6, bishop H4, G5, and then the question. I think in that position you've probably got knight takes G5 and the knight on H5 hangs. So what I'm trying to explore is whether H3 was obligatory at that point. I think you can play knight F3 on move 4, and you don't have to worry about H5 because black can't hunt down the bishop yet.
Yeah, I mean, it also gives away again, like last time, takes the G4 square away from the bishop. So the light squared bishop for black.
That's true. That is true. I also think, by the way, I'm wrong. Can we just do this again, just for my own self-respect? So if White's 4th move was knight F3,
yes,
knight H5, bishop G5, H6, bishop H4, pawn G5. Actually, yeah, you can take. Oh no, hang on. Black takes on. Black takes on G5 and defends the knight. So maybe it was obligatory. The rook defends the knight, doesn't it?
Oh yes, what's the pawn's move?
The rook defends the knight, so you can't pick up the You can't pick up the knight. So maybe it is obligatory at this point. Although I think it'd be quite rare for black to play knight h5. All right, maybe it's all theory. Black's gone ahead and done the fianchetto.
Yep.
Knight f3, c5 is really standard. Bishop d3. So this is all pretty normal stuff after that little thrill with the move order. White castles. I suppose black's 8th move, bishop d7, which you can only assume is preparing e5. Sorry, knight d7. Knight d7, black's 8th move.
Yep.
Which
frees the bishop. Frees the bishop, so it allows e5.
It really does.
3 pieces defending e5.
Yeah, and I think e5 would be a good move in that position. I mean, there's nothing wrong with e5 in that position. What's White doing about it? White's just developing calmly knight d2. But black's exchanged. Well, black's exchanged, which slightly surprises me, actually.
Oh, he's played e5 out straight afterwards, so.
Oh, has he? There we go.
Yeah.
So now black has an isolated queen's pawn. I don't like this for black. Black has an isolated queen's pawn, but usually the person with the IQP wants to get an attack going, and his bishop's facing the wrong way. So I don't understand this concept. I mean, also, by the way, black's offering exchanges. In other words, Nigel's played bishop c2, but White could just take twice on e5. And it's just
sort of the good bishop. Yeah, could have swapped off the good bishop, couldn't he?
Well, yeah, and the person without the IQP wants to swap pieces. I mean, let's just think what would happen. So if he just went, so on move 12, instead of bishop c2.
Well, that should be knight takes, bishop takes, bishop takes. So you're giving up the If you do that, giving up the bishop pair.
Yeah, you're right. And then, so knight takes, bishop takes. And then I suppose you got to play knight f3. What you don't want is for black
Yes,
to
no.
play d4 and get rid of the IQP.
Yes. And the position we actually ended up in after. It seems like White has a good control over that d4 square, doesn't he?
After queen c2 or just in general?
Just after bishop c2.
Yeah.
I mean, see how Cowley carries on.
Rook
So he just
e8.
swap off actually. So he just swap off a pair of knights.
Pair of knights came off. And now I suppose it's White's move. So White can play knight f3 here, right?
Yeah, looks like you can.
Well, the thing is, though, knight f3, black takes on f3, white takes on f3, and then black can play d4
d4.
and
Pawn
lose.
takes, bishop takes.
Yeah, lose the
That sort of
IQ.
equalizes there, doesn't it, I suppose?
Pawn takes, bishop takes. Yeah, it does equalize. But you see, at the moment, I think White's better here. I prefer White. I suppose
So do
White.
you.
Go on.
So does White want to go the other way? Oh, he's swapped off anyway.
He's done it.
So White's other choice was to go to knight b3, wasn't it? And then hop into d4.
I like that more. I like
The
that.
knight's in a nice square. Again, it's not quite an outpost because outposts is generally in the opposition's half, but still.
Yeah.
But he's gone the other way, the way we were talking about it before. So knight takes, well, bishop takes, bishop takes.
Actually, the thing we talked about has happened. He's played
Yes,
knight
and then
f3.
the knight jumped to f3. Bishop goes back, I guess. Might as well go back to g7.
Bishop goes back, and then I think White maybe was going to want to play. Well, actually, White's good here. White can even play knight g4.
Knight g4.
Knight g4 is a good move, I think. So, really nice square for the knight.
Yeah, that is. Well, again, it's the knights end up in the same square. Just bounce around. I mean, it blunts the bishop a little bit as well. It's good bishop. I still prefer white.
Yeah, me too.
Until the board opens up, until that d pawn disappears, gets swapped off. I was only moved it back to f6 instead.
What about bishop b3 here? Hang on. Yeah, bishop b3. Yay!
There you go. It's a pawn.
Then bishop
Pawn is
e6.
attacked twice and defended once. So bishop e6 seems logical.
Bishop e6.
Looks like you could nearly potentially force a swap off. You can play bishop a4, attacks the rook. Oh no, you can't defend it actually. The rook has to move, doesn't it? Or you stick a bishop in the way.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get rid of the bishop pair, to be honest.
I think the rook would have to move. I don't think you can play bishop d7 because I think White just swaps that off and then you've lost another pair of minor pieces. I think
That's
White
true.
White wants to get minor pieces off with a better pawn structure.
Just connect to rooks.
Yeah, but also he's looking for rook d1 and then winning the IQP.
Yeah, because you can't. It's difficult for white. Difficult for black to defend it again. Because he's going to have to stick a rook behind the queen.
I think that's right. I think, but of course, yeah, black can play like queen d7, right?
Yes, that's going to have to play something like that, isn't he? If he wants to hang on to it. The pawn is an isolated queen's pawn, so it can't be defended by another pawn, Simon.
That's the answer. And
that's what it's called.
If White attacks it with piling up on the file, it means it's very hard to push it.
Yes. The d4 square is very well defended for white.
Just for your information, Liam, I'm struggling to get the zoom on the screen at all times while we're looking at the chess. So you and I are appearing and disappearing, but I don't think that's any problem for you or the audience, is it?
No.
We're all good. Should we have a look at Will versus Eldar?
Oh yes.
Okay. So what's going on here? So
it's a French exchange. Is it Rubinstein?
It's a Rubinstein
So,
French. You can't help feeling that White's lost the right to castle here.
yes, I've just looked at the looked at move 12, and suddenly, yes, Ian's already put a comment. On move 10, he played King F1, which looks like a mouse slip.
Oh, that's rough.
I would have to agree.
That's
Oh.
rough. Poor old
And there's
Will.
no- and
That's
there's
really unfair. Well, it is what it is.
Yeah, and it's quite not the easiest of positions for the rook to get out of, is there?
Yeah, I mean,
White's going to do a lot of swapping to get the rook out, to get the king out of the way for the rook to get out.
yeah, I mean, White's now worse. I mean, not losing,
No.
not losing by force, but definitely worse. And there's two big hazards, aren't there, in computer chess? The first is disconnects, and the second is mouse slips. You don't generally get mouse slips in the longer time controls, but it can happen clearly.
Yeah. Just like just then. Example number 1.
I'm
and
afraid
you want to start
so.
again from the beginning?
Yeah.
So the French Rubinstein, I've got as far as...
Let's do it.
I've got as far as move 5 or White's move 6. So normally when I play this, so I play the Tarax.
Yeah.
And I generally take the knight. I play knight f6.
Yeah.
But White has retreated the knight back to g3. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
That looks like it's the same idea in the Caracan. Oh, but not in the line of the Caracan that you play, but in the line that I play. So there's a Caracan that goes e4, c6, d4, d5, knight d2, black takes on e4, white takes on e4, knight d7. Rather than your bishop f5, you play knight d7. And then if white plays knight f3, then after knight f6, white plays knight g3. So you get the same position with a pawn on c6 rather than e6. It's the same idea.
Okay, yeah.
It's basically a Caracan idea. I think it's a little bit less correct in the French. I mean, it's very mainline in the Caro. So bishop e7 looks good. Bishop d3 looks good. Castles. Bishop c and pawn c3 is standard in this line.
Yeah.
b6 completely standard. Like, let's develop that queen's bishop, and the e6 pawn is blocking it. Queen e2 looks natural. Bishop b7, and then king f1 is a novelty.
It probably is a novelty, to be honest.
It's an unfortunate novelty, and I imagine at this point White's thinking of playing h4 because you may as well.
Again, how is that rook ever going to escape?
h4.
Well, h4 is probably the only way you're going to get to escape, to be honest with you.
It's really tricky because, of course, you can't do the sort of... even the fianchetto to put the king on g2 is tricky because you got a knight on g3, right?
Yeah, it's completely blocked. I mean, you can... That's just a nightmare, isn't it, really? I was trying to get rid of the knight, but the knight can really only go back to somewhere to like e4.
Yeah.
It's just going to get swapped off, isn't it? The queen's going to end up in the middle.
Now, White's going to try and equalise. It's really annoying. It's just, black is really harmonious, and he's castled, and White's going to be like minus 0.7, I imagine, on the computer. I mean, I don't know, because I haven't got a computer running, but my best bet is that White's got to fight to equalise this, just through pure bad luck.
Yes. I'm going to carry on. So
Should we
after the... Oh, sorry?
Go on.
No, I was just carrying on.
Are they still at it? Oh, there's more.
There's more.
C5.
Seems obvious. Must
G5.
play black.
So now White's got an IQP. It's basically IQP themed knight, isn't it?
Yes.
H6 is kind of making sense because the bishop can't back off. Oh, H4.
Here we go. H4.
You love to see it. Maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe it's
a deep sound sacrifice to tempt black into a speculative sack kind of thing. So, I don't know. So let's think about it. Go on then. So pawn takes.
And
on
then
g5.
the minute the knight moves, white's got at least a draw and probably more. So if the knight moves, bishop h7 check is at least a draw,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
probably a lot more. Well, hang on, let's go through. So if it's black's move, right? So pawn takes bishop, pawn takes pawn. The knight's attacked. If the knight goes to e4, then knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes, and I guess black can play g6 and black's still in the game, but black's given the piece back, right?
Yes.
So black's worse. So if black tries not to give the piece back, so if you go h takes g, knight e8, right?
Yes.
Or knight, let's play knight d5, which is a bit less mad. Knight d5, then bishop h7 is at least a draw. And I suspect there's more there for white, actually, but there's a perpetual at least. And Eldar won't want that.
No. So do you not take the bishop then and just play something like, I don't know, knight d5 straight away?
I've got two reflexes on this. The first is I suspect this is a plot by Will Bird. I now do not believe this is a mouse slip. I think this is prep, and it's very amusing because it looks. I believe this is sound. I mean, you see this right in the Queen's Gambit Declined, and you see this in the Spanish Exchange. So this theme is pretty common. So I think this is a plan. Well, if it's not a plan, full marks to Will for creating something positive out of adversity. Okay, so black's taken on f3.
Okay, so what's the plan? What's the idea?
I don't think that materially changes it. I think queen's taking it.
I don't think either, really. If anything, it helps.
Yeah.
It helps white because now if you take the bishops off, and then the knight moves, queen h5 looks pretty awful.
Yeah, I think that's right. Actually,
By the way,
it's also giving up the bishop pair. I don't like that move. I'll be honest with you. I mean, Eldar's a better player than me. Oh, well, okay. So what about knight d5? Oh, he calls it. Knight d5 is the idea.
Knight d5, well done.
Because this is taking the heat out. So what black's saying? I mean, so okay, this was a good plan. So what black's saying is, white's got an IQP. I'm going to ignore that h4 business. White, as long as black doesn't take on g5, white doesn't really have an attack.
I'm just making sure. I think black should play quite solidly. I mean, the funny knight move is interesting, but surely black's still better if he just is solid and doesn't go crazy and take that bishop.
I think that's right. I mean, have we analysed queen e4 in this position, because that's threatening mate in one. So queen e4 for white. So queen e4, there's three ways to stop the mate, right? There's f5.
Can't play that because queen takes pawn on e6 check.
Right. There's g6, which is followed by bishop takes h6.
Bishop h6. Or you move one of the knights back to f6, don't you?
That's right. So and then that's hitting the queen, and then you get what? Bishop takes, knight takes, and you're sort of fine. So I think the point is, I think after queen e4, it would be knight 7 to f6. Do you not think knight 7 to f6?
Yes, yeah, that makes sense.
And then if bishop takes, knight takes, and black just says so, because of course if bishop takes, bishop can't take, because then it's mating again.
Still mating one.
It's got to be bishop takes, knight takes. And black's better.
Yes, because the isolated queen's pawn is under attack then.
Yeah.
So the queen probably has to move back to something like e3. And then you can move your bishop to f6, attacking it again. Get the rooks on the open files.
Sorry?
Then black get the rooks on the open files, and he's happy as Larry, isn't he?
Yeah, I think black's better here. I mean, I think white may have had a mouse slip.
I'm fairly confident that it was a mouse slip.
Yeah. And I think the result is black is better, and black is favourite to win this. I mean, I think Will's a great player, so he may be able to draw it, but it's going to be hard to draw this for White, I think. I mean, what
Yes.
so what do we think? So if we think Queen E4 is not a move, what's the move? I mean, Bishop D2, Bishop takes on E7.
I was trying to think. Say what exactly is what does White want to do? Does he want to carry on playing, or does he want to risk it all?
Well, the point
There's
is
a
that
question you've got to have the question, haven't you? I mean, something like I haven't checked this through yet, but Bishop takes H6 with a threat of Queen G4 check.
I mean, it's a dog move, isn't it? I mean, come on, let's do it then. You do White, I'll do Black. Bishop takes
No,
H6. G takes H6.
I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking, out of the frying pan into the fire. The problem with White is that he's obviously going to struggle to win this, and he'll probably struggle to draw it as well. He's going to play. Maybe he'll just try.
Well, okay. So here's the deal: Bishop takes
No.
H6. Let's look at it. Bishop takes H6. G takes H6. Queen G4 check, right?
Yeah.
So unless Black's going to give the piece back, Black is having to play King H8.
Yes.
And then White has Knight H5.
Yes.
And then
the rook.
Yeah, Rook G8, which looks like a saver. So it looks like, and we're not doing it very, very deeply. It looks
You
like
probably can't play it.
I mean, it's definitely right to look at it. It's definitely right to look at it. But I think at this level, with the players of this strength, I think Bishop takes H6. I think it's going to lose quickly.
How about going the other way then? What about Queen H5? Oh, he's taking the bishop.
He's taking on
Queen
E7.
H5 means you can't take the bishop. Can't take H4.
Queen H5 was a crafty idea, actually. Queen H5 was a crafty idea because, for instance, after G6, which is the attempt to win a piece, well, G6 is terrible because you just take twice on G6.
You can even just take the H pawn.
But then the queen's hanging.
No, with the queen.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant, yeah, you're right. Okay, so G6 was a dog move. So I actually think that Queen H5 was a good idea. That was a good idea.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you for the compliment.
I like it.
But
the point being, you can't take the bishop because it's mating on H7, right?
Yeah. Again, you're not really threatening anything. You're just sort of hoping that Black will be kind and give the mistake back, aren't you?
Yeah, that's the problem. It's this sort of it's asking your opponent to make a mistake. It's tempting your opponent to make a mistake, right? And Eldar does not give in to that temptation generally.
That's true. So instead, he took the bishop. Bishop takes, queen takes. Looks sensible, and then rook e1. I guess you got to stick on an open file, semi-open file.
So my temptation now would be to play queen f6, but then you've got a problem, I think, with queen e4. So queen f6 is a bad idea. It's too rushed. Because queen e4 is uncomfortable, then you've probably got to play something like... Anyway, he's not played it. Eldar's just playing sensible chess.
Which is exactly what he should be doing in a position like this.
Yeah. He's playing sensible chess.
Black is solidly better.
Yeah, I think he's plotting...
Not spectacularly better.
Plotting for queen b4, I think. Queen b4 now forks 2 pawns.
Yes, it does.
So that's... And to be honest with you, I think that Black's king is as safe as houses. Black's king, with that knight there... Because how on earth is White going to cause any trouble to that king? You know, it's sort of... It's really hard.
If you were ever going to try and cause some trouble, that the black square bishop needed to be on the board so it could sack itself on H6.
I just think, with more generally, with these minor pieces falling off, I think it's getting harder and harder for White. I mean, I'm sure we've all checked that queen takes d5 doesn't work because the knight can take back. Clearly, the pawn can't take back.
Yes, I reject that.
The knight can take back. All right, I think, should we switch to Tom Shepherd? Because I think, I mean, if we end up with a whole string of draws, I think this game could bring it home. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, eh? So, look at the Tom Shepherd game. So, what's going on here? So,
Ooh, this is quite interesting.
So
So the
what are we?
last move we looked at was, well, we're going to move 13,
Move 13. So let's go back there. Okay.
and white played H3, which is probably
Okay.
just a solid move. White's just being solid.
It's really solid. Oh no, hang on. So you predicted A3, which happened. A3 happened on move 12. Black castled.
Yes.
H H3
H3.
H6. I actually think Rook FC1 is controversial. I would have wondered about Rook AC1.
Well, after you played A3, surely this pawn is going to be safe. So, yes, I agree with you.
It's not the biggest deal in the world. Well, it can be a big deal, this kind of stuff. I think that the Rook's not doing much on A3, but A1, but we'll see. So he's moved his F Rook. Knight D2 from White. And what's the idea of Knight D2? Where's it going? Where's it being recycled to?
You're going to try and push the E pawn? Again, seems a bit risky for no real reason there.
Or maybe going to F1 and G3, that White Knight. I don't think it's much to do from B3. So I think
No.
Knight D2 must be on a journey to F1 and G3 would be my best guess.
Yeah, the bishop goes and hides in the pawn strategy, doesn't it? Ends back on H6, H7.
Okay, so Black's played F6. So now White's gone to G3, so my idea was complete bunk. Well, it's just the Knight's...
Wow, he's moved the bishop to try and...
Bishop G6. It's also deep. You know what? Again, I'm not so sure about pawn B4. I actually think that makes the A pawn a weakness.
Yeah, there's no real need for that, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, why has it happened? It's happened probably to stop Knight A5. So it stops. The only thing that pawn B4 does is stops Knight A5.
He's worried you're going to... Yeah, but even that is that really much of a problem?
Well, I think Knight A5, Knight C4 is quite a good move actually because you've got a rook behind it. So Knight. Oh, but well, you can't do it straight away because you blunder a knight on D7.
Yeah.
So it's not an immediate threat certainly. But I suppose my concern about pawn B4 is it makes the A pawn weak, and also if Black doubles on the A file, then the A pawn is pinned, so you can get Black taking on B4 against a rook pinned at the back. So don't really like that move actually, but let's see what happens. So bishop. I'm looking at bishop E8, move 17 from Black.
Okay, that's quite interesting.
It's a really sophisticated manoeuvring game, this, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Knight
It's
B3.
the games I'm not very good at, to be honest.
Oh, come on. Of course you are. Knight
I like
B3.
flourish attacks. Like crazy attacks, which
well,
often
it's more
end up
interesting, let's
being
be honest. Well, it depends. Different people find different things interesting. Knight A7, bishop's retreated, and then F5. So keeping up our theme of the Dutch.
Yes.
F5 for Black. Tom's doing well here on top board. I mean, I think he's posing this guy some problems, and certainly a draw would be good on top board. I think today if Tom can manage.
Yeah, Tom's the only person that's really outgraded. I'd say 10 points either way for most players. You can have an equal game, but I think he's quite a bit better, isn't he? He's like 15 points.
Yeah, and if you look at the online grades, which I know you take with a pinch of salt, but it's a big gap.
Yes, that's true.
So anyway, I think a draw would be good. Got F5. What happens next?
What's trying to do?
It's White's move, right?
Yep. So what we're going to do then? What are we going to do?
What we're going to do is, as White, I'll tell you what we're going to do.
I don't know, Simon. Off for a draw?
I mean, okay. My attempt to be objective here is to say Black's got a backward E pawn. Black's got double pawns. I think Black's pawn structure is not quite as good as White's. The pieces are equal, so my assessment is that White's a little bit better. I would want to establish a knight on e5, which would suggest that the b3 knight goes to d2, f3, e5. I imagine what black wants to do is to push e5 to liberate that weakness, but it's hard because straight away the d pawn drops.
D pawn's on it. The bishop's covering it.
So right now, e5 would blunder the e pawn and the d pawn. Obviously, you can only take one at a time. So it's not a move at the moment, but maybe. I mean, so I would.
Yeah, but if you wanted to play e5, you wouldn't play if you want to play e5, you wouldn't play f5, though, would you?
Good point.
Back at the pawn.
That's a good point.
So you can fiddle around again. You can put the bishop back to f6 before pushing.
But it's still dropping the d pawn.
Still dropping the d pawn, yeah. Same problems.
So I'm claiming here that white's a little bit better. So consequently should not offer a draw.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I mean,
interesting to see.
We don't offer draws in better positions, do we?
No, I only offer draws if I'm losing.
Viewers take note.
No, don't. Yes. I think whenever anyone offers you a draw, you should always ask why are they offering it. They obviously don't think they're better.
Yeah.
They might think it's dead equal, I suppose, but
sometimes it's because the postman just rang the doorbell and you need to get, or sometimes it's the tournament position, right? Sometimes a draw would guarantee you first place or whatever. Look at that! Isn't that an interesting move from white? It's, I think, a good move as well. b4. So burying the knight, basically, and fixing the double pawns.
That a knight's gonna have a hard time getting out of there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think
move the knight, and then when does the knight go there?
All of black's pieces are struggling for squares, actually. I mean, the other knight's not great either. I mean, so I think that's a really good move, actually. And I feel bad for criticising b4 now. Obviously, there was a plan. So that's pretty secure, that pawn, right? I mean, it's going to take black a while to pile up on it. You'd need knight e6, knight d6, it's virtually unachievable, actually, in this position. It's quite hard for black to pile up on that pawn, and white can always defend it anyway, a4. And Tom's ahead on time, which tells you something. Tells you he's got more time left.
Yes, it's interesting. Also happens, obviously, the increment as well. It's quite handy.
Yeah.
So let's not worry about time too much.
Yeah.
Only when there's 2 minutes left, you start worrying about that kind of thing.
No, I think with the strength of his opponent, his opponent's going to be able to play on the increment absolutely fine. But it's just, sometimes it tells you a bit about the position. If there's, 10 minutes difference,
it
either means black's seeing something very deep, or it means that black's a little bit uneasy. Often, he's just spent time trying to work out what's going on. Knight f6. So where's that knight? I suppose that knight's coming to e4.
You could go to e4. If the white squared bishop moves, you could vaguely try to get it back to d6, hitting the pawn, but that's a little while away. Okay, so there's two pieces attacking the b pawn, and there's 2 pieces defending the b pawn.
Yeah. Oh,
doesn't look like there's any kind of exchange sack on c3. That looks a bit risky, to be perfectly honest.
I looked at that.
I don't think you get much for it.
I don't think that could be correct.
No, I don't think you get enough for it. The pawns are still black's pawns are still doubled, so there's no easy queen there, is there?
No, I don't think it's enough. I think, and I think after knight e4, white just takes it off. Oh, hang on. No, you can't just... Well, you've got to defend the b pawn before you start taking it off. So if it were black's move, knight e4, I think white takes on e4 and then plays a4 to defend the b pawn.
Yeah,
because
I like that.
Those advanced pawns would be frightening if there were more pieces on. But this is not a kingside attack kind of game. This is a... the queens are off. Okay, Tom's safety first, a4. I think that's a good move.
Yes, there's no need to worry about that. Is
That knight on a7 is so buried. Should we just flick to Cowley Mike versus Nick? Come on then. Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought it was going to be
going
drawn.
on?
Yeah.
So last move we saw was 11 f4.
Okay, hang on. 11 f4. Let's get a look at this. You're right. Oh, Black plays g5. Man after my own heart. That's actually a bit of humour. Because Nick told me that Mike is an expert in g4 attacks. So Nick's beat him to it.
Yes.
But also, I think g5 is thematic in these positions. I mean, as we said before, you've got to find a break in the position. And, you know, unless you either break through on the queen side or the king side because the centre's completely blocked. So g5, g3, Mike managed to move his g-pawn. King h8. I can see Ian's all over this. Okay. He's cooking an apple pie, apparently. That's good to know. Knight
I'll ask him to bring
f3.
some round, but he can't, can he? So
Sorry?
can't bring any round, can he? So
Apple pie,
that's a
I
shame.
quite fancy some. Yeah, we're all in our separate bubbles at the moment. So Black's taken on f4, White's taken back. Okay. Rook g8, threatening bishop takes f4, which Mike will undoubtedly see.
Yes.
Knight.
Well, let's be a bit careful. I think there's not many pieces on the king side, is there?
For White.
Yeah.
Who do you prefer? You prefer Black? I think I prefer Black, don't I?
I prefer Black as well.
Because
he should have an easier time of it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, the bishop b2 looks out of it. I imagine, I'm not looking ahead, but I imagine he'll liquidate that knight on e4 pretty soon with the bishop.
No, I'll just click through.
Have you?
Yeah, sorry. I was really way ahead of you.
Come on, let's click ahead. Knight f8, knight g2, bishop d7 connecting the rooks, knight takes, knight takes. Yeah, he liquidated on e4.
Yeah.
Knight g2 is a good idea because I was actually looking at queen h4 in some of those lines. And knight g2 stops that in two ways. The knight and the pawn can both take. Yeah. Rook f2. So what do we think about this? I mean, I'll tell you what we think about this. Black wins the pawn endgame.
Yeah, I still prefer Black here. I mean, he's the only one with a passed pawn.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite a solid. I think it's quite a solid passed pawn as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, any kind of c takes d is answered by e takes d.
Yeah.
And the pawn is there. Basically, the pawn can stay there until it wants to go on the charge and try and promote, can't it?
Which one, sorry?
The e4 pawn can sit there until enough pieces get swapped off and that it can start pushing and threaten the attack or promote.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But in a simple pawn endgame, I think Black's winning.
I agree.
But that's a long way away.
Pieces left for that, isn't it?
Yeah, so I assume Black's played rook f8. I assume he wants to get a knight to f6. I mean, you'd really want to get a knight to f3, wouldn't you? That would be lovely. Is that possible?
How can you even get there, though? I don't think you can.
Pretty hard.
Pawns are covering the squares.
g4 is not a bad square. So knight f6, knight g4 is pretty handy, isn't it?
Yes.
Again, Cowley Mike's got a little bit less time. Should we flick to Nigel? Because I'm worried we're neglecting Nigel.
Well, Nigel.
Yeah, let's not neglect Nigel. And the answer is... okay. This looks good.
So...
I mean... Should we go back to where we came from? Should we...
Yep. 17. Queen d2 was the last move I had.
Queen d2.
Queen a5.
Sorry?
Sorry, then White played Queen a5. It's quite interesting, I suppose.
Queen A5, yeah.
Because that creates the you're going to try and defend the D pawn, aren't you?
With the rook behind it, right? Yeah,
Just doing it in a different order of what we've done it in.
yeah. I think that's sensible. Rook E1 looks reasonable. Fianchetto the king. King. So the point
What do
about
you gain
King
by doing that
G7.
then?
Sorry,
What do you do by doing that then?
you stop Queen H6. I think is what you do.
I suppose so.
I think that's the idea. Although I don't think Queen H6 was that good, but
No.
I think it just rules out the Queen H6 risk because, of course, there's no Knight G5 because the bishop takes it off. But all that King G7 can do, I think, is to stop Queen H6. I think. Yeah. Okay. And then Rook E2.
Doubling the rooks.
Rook AC8. I suppose there's some chance of mischief taking on C3, but it's not immediately obvious to me. I mean, I suppose you're stopping pawn C4 in a big way. Okay. Rook E1. Putting the rook behind the
pawn. And then I jump to D4, which is what I was thinking, what we were both thinking.
Knight D4. Bishop has to move, otherwise you're losing a pawn. Queen F4 I like, because it's just sort of active and can't really be annoyed.
Stops the king from moving back.
So it does.
That's the only piece holding the bishop.
Yeah, which is not comfortable, actually. That would make me worry. Queen C5, Knight F3.
Bishop takes the rook.
Bishop B5. Rook moves. Bishop wants to swap. That's probably right.
Swap.
Rook's double. Bishop swaps. But of course, if white had instigated the swap, then black could get rid of the IQP, and actually the D8 rook is defended as well. So
yeah, it's well defended.
Yeah. So Queen B6. So now it's white's move, right?
Yeah. So I guess rook takes D5, and then do you go straight into Queen takes B3, or do you swap off rooks first? Basically, I don't think you'd want to do that as white. Is it like you're going to drop the B2 pawn as well, aren't you?
Sorry, I was just trying to get your face on the screen, which is clearly a good use of my time. So hang on. Rook takes D5, Queen takes B3.
Yeah. Or do you swap off rooks first? But I don't think white wants to play that anyway, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, Liam.
Well, I jumped in. Oh, he's going to take it. So it's black, I think, liquidating the rook probably best, isn't it? Rook takes.
You're reading Draco's mind. White's got to take that.
Pawn. Queen takes pawn. Looks obvious.
Yeah.
And then maybe Queen D2, maybe? Defend that B pawn.
Move. I like Queen D2. I think that's a good move. I think this is looking like half a point each, isn't it?
It does, yes. Again, it is.
So the only moves here that don't lose are Queen D2 and Rook D2.
Yeah, because also the bishop is eyeing at the C pawn as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So can't lose both of them without massive amounts of compensation.
There's no Rook D7. So let's try this. So just for fun, I don't think it's good. So Rook D7, Queen B2, Knight E5.
Rook goes back anyway.
It's irrelevant. Rook D2. You think Eldar's beaten Wilbert yet?
Probably. Oh, nearly.
Should we have a look?
He's a pawn up.
Oh, gosh.
White's in a interesting position.
Should we just watch it live?
Like he's managed to untangle his rook by getting it to G3 of all squares.
Well done, Will.
Probably took some bit of a walk.
Well done. So let's have a look at this. So black's got a pawn. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, White's pieces don't immediately look well placed just right now, but they're better placed than they were, so that's a good thing.
Okay. Can I just ask you a question, which is, so what happens after queen takes a2 for black? It's probably not right. It's probably unnecessarily risky, but I just want to know. Like, there's
Probably not too much on there. I mean,
there's no queen takes f6,
no, no, no.
and then after bishop takes after bishop takes d5, black would need to play knight takes d5.
Yep, which removes the pinned piece.
Um,
Oh, sorry, the knight is pinned to the pawn, isn't it? To a degree.
and of course, black can take on a2 after swapping on e4 as well. Black can take on e4 and then take on a2, which is probably a little bit better. Well, let's just see if it results in checkmate. So knight takes e4, queen takes e4, black takes a2, and then queen g4. What happens?
You have to play G6, aren't you?
And then it looks like that Simon Terrington's taken too many risks. So actually, because I suspect the logic
But then,
for
yeah,
white is for black is he's winning the pawn endgame anyway. So allowing white an attack is the worst thing you can do here.
yeah. I mean, after that, you're looking at moves like H5, attacks G6, isn't it?
And I
Push the
think
pawn again.
it probably means I bungled it. Probably a better move. So rook a c8,
Very sensible.
just unpinning the knight on d5,
Yeah.
and rook a c8. I think we've got to know now what black's going to play. I think rook a c8 is going to be a candidate. And now, of course, well, okay. The other point is that black could take on a2 without exchanging on e4. Then there's no queen g4. So the question that needs to be explored is, oh, he's
Oh, he's
exchanged.
taking it.
Okay, fine.
So queen takes.
So I
Okay, so
think
where?
now, go on.
No, I'm just thinking where are we going with this? So
So now I like rook.
knight goes
Oh,
back. Yeah.
it's so solid. So now after queen f3, we have to be careful with queen takes f6. So after queen f3, we're going to play something like king h8. And
Yeah.
I'm 100% sure that will be seen. Or after this move, we're
Okay.
going to.
Yes, the pin still exists. The knight is under attack because the pawn is still pinned.
Knight's under attack. The knight's not defendable. Moves like knight d7 will be catastrophic. So all knight moves are catastrophic. I mean, knight h5 only loses the knight, but on knight e8, you could play knight e8.
Oh yeah, blocks the rook in there, doesn't it?
He won't play knight e8. He'll play king h8 or king h7. King
Might as
h8.
well move it to h8 because there's no checks on the diagonal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Less to worry about, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. My best guess is black's good here. I mean, not only is he a pawn up, he's also an IQ. It's also the IQP situation. So yay!
Yeah,
Now what?
sensible.
So what are we doing for white? We're doing.
You're gonna take that pawn now.
Well, it's white's move, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah. Sorry. So what's he got left then? You can move the knight. The knight can really only go to f4, I suppose.
It gets dropped by the queen. Oh no, no, no! You're right. You're right. You're right.
Is that?
You're right. So after knight f4, I mean, knight f4 is a good move actually, because of course that black knight is pinned against checkmate. So knight f4, you're starting to threaten knight h5, and actually is a bit of discomfort for black. So it could go
Yeah.
knight f4, rook a d8. Yeah,
So he's gone for.
rook a d8, knight, and then the point is after knight h5, black can play rook d5 and wins the game.
Yes, that's what I was about to say.
So I think the defensive maneuver, I mean, there are other defensive maneuvers, like black can play like queen a5 right now. Queen a5, I mean, it's a bit wimpy because it doubles those queenside pawns.
It does. Do you really want to do that?
I think rook d8, rook a d8 is a more principled move. I mean, it's just a bit scary because it gives white a move to do something. So you'd have to analyze it. And Will's a good player, you know. I mean, so the point is, rook a d8, knight h5, rook d5, knight takes on f6, rook takes queen. It's over.
Yeah, there's nothing going on there.
There's nothing going on. Hey! I love it when we predict the moves.
It's great minds think alike, isn't it?
Well, what's the time situation? The time situation is
Levelish.
Yeah, Will's ahead a bit.
It's increment to kind of discount it.
Yeah. How much is it?
Sorry to be boring.
Is it 15 seconds?
15 seconds.
45 plus 15. So now, if nothing happens, black's threatening queen takes d4.
Yes, he is.
Which I think is a really strong move. I mean, it's not a genius statement from me, but I think after queen d4, that is, 0-1. White's got to stop that.
Is there an easy way of stopping that? I don't think there is, really. Neither rook can defend it very easily.
It's uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, hang on. Can't the third rank rook defend it?
Oh, it can do because the knight's defending it, of course. Then he just goes and takes the a pawn, doesn't he?
Well, I think so, but I think, to be honest, I think losing the a pawn is not as bad as losing the d pawn. I think it's just starting to slip away from white. I think because they're losing the d pawn, the attack's just that centralized queen. The point about queen d4 is not taking the pawn. Well, it's just that the black queen is so central that then it's very hard for white to checkmate black, because it's either swapping the queen or it's just not good.
Yes, if black can win one of them pawns and then swap off queens, there's still a long way to play, but you're getting towards a point where it's black is winning full stop, isn't he?
And black may take on d4 with the rook.
Yeah.
Which then attacks the f4 knight.
Allows a doubling of rooks as well.
Should we go to Tom Shepherd?
Guess go back. Cycle around.
Just cycle around in a very fair and equitable way. Something's happened. Something sharp has happened. Okay.
So again, the last move we saw was 20b5.
Yeah, I've got a feeling in my stomach about this. I suspect black's winning this, but let's see. So we saw move 20, did we? It looked very even, this. But 20, b5, which I thought was a good move. So knight, a4, bishop attacks the knight, knight backs off, bishop attacks the rook. Okay.
Yep. Takes bishop.
Golly gosh, for some reason I find this such a complicated game. Okay. Oh no, sorry, I'm wrong. I think this is solid. I'm... Oh, hang on. Oh gosh. It's happening so quickly. So, all right, so let's analyze a line. Bishop takes b5.
Knight takes b5.
Bishop takes b5, knight takes b5, knight c5. Oh, no, the bishop's hanging.
Bishop's hanging, so bishop doesn't move.
So,
Best bishop either.
so knight c5 is the move. Oh no, it's not because the other thing's hanging. Oh, I think
Because the
Black's
bishop's
played this
hanging.
well. I think,
Black's played it well.
yeah, I think the answer is Black's a pawn up here.
Yeah, he managed to get rid of his awful double pawns, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the bottom line is that Black's a pawn up, and so I even wonder if the best move is King F1 here, and just trying to hold the endgame.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But
Even,
you know,
even after rook check, the king could wander in front of the pawns, couldn't it?
yeah, I mean, so what? King F1. What are you saying? Bishop E2, King E2,
Bishop takes. Yeah, and then rook ace A2 check. Oh, he swapped off anyway.
Okay, it's okay. So this
similar
is
idea, though. I think you'd probably try and move the king out reasonably quickly.
well. I think if it depends what you're thinking. If you're thinking that you're trying to hold an endgame of pawn down, then I think I'd centralize the king. I mean, the question now is whether knight c5 is going to be a threat. So black's got to move. So if knight c5 is playable now, it regains a pawn. But for instance, after black plays knight d6, then it still wins a pawn. So Tom actually here might be able to regain. What can black play?
So
I mean, one thing black.
Yeah. Oh, black can smooth the king. Should he defend the e pawn? King f7.
But then he's still losing a pawn. King f7, knight c5.
Yep, and then there's two pieces on that, isn't there? I was going for knight d6, but no, that doesn't work, does it?
Well, I'll tell you what, it does work because King f7, knight c5, knight d6, knight takes b7, rook b8 wins a piece.
No, it doesn't, because
knight takes d6 check.
Knight takes d6 check.
Yeah. Okay. So in other words, King f7 was a dog. So
yeah. Can't play that. What can you play?
b6.
b6. Yep. Stop it, first.
Well, b6 and then knight c1.
No, it's going to move.
Then you take the b6 pawn.
Yeah.
The point about knight c1 is you stop the rook defending the knight on a5 because the bishop's covering it. Knight c1's a weird square, but it's not that bad. It's because it's going to e2 next. So I think after b6, it's knight c1. This is fascinating to know, actually, whether... I mean, black's clearly done some smart stuff here, but whether black's actually got a pawn here, we haven't yet found a way.
Yeah, the more I look at it, the more I think maybe he can't hang on to it.
How about for black, rook e8, knight c5, knight d6, and then black's holding the pawn because then, so rook e8, knight c5, knight d6, knight takes b7, rook b8 wins a piece. So I think the right move for black is rook e8,
yes,
followed by rook e7, which then defends all those weak pawns. Although the rook's not very active.
No, that's your problem, though, isn't it? You're swapping this active rook. I mean, it's quite active where it is right now, but it's become very passive if it's defending two pawns, isn't it?
It certainly is, but you're a whole pawn up, and the question is, can black consolidate? In other words, if black, the knight on d6 is really good. If black can, well, the knight on d6...
Yeah, but even then, the knight isn't going to... Sorry, the rook isn't going to stay on e7 forever, isn't it? It's not. So it can easily move to c6, c7. Move back into... Okay,
White
so he's already made a move.
Draw. Black declines the draw. That's interesting.
Yeah, I can see it again. I can kind of see why.
See both sides.
Tom's happy. Tom's happy with a draw, to be honest. And look at the.
So, do you want to play knight c5 here?
Knight c5. I think you'll have to, aren't you?
So knight c5, and so And so isn't that's just winning the B pawn, right? That B pawn
Yeah.
cannot survive, can it? Oh, of course
Doesn't
it
look like
can.
it can.
Knight
How?
C5, pawn B5. Knight C5, pawn B5. Yep. And now what?
And now what? That's the question.
I think Black's played this well.
Mm.
Because, of course, you put the rook behind it. I mean, you've got to be a bit careful. White doesn't play pawn F3, bishop G3, and pin your knight against your rook. So there's a bit of detail to work out. But in principle,
Okay.
he's sort of plotting. I think he's plotting to stick that bishop on G3, where it can cause untold. I mean, right now, Black's not.
Some misery, not untold.
Yeah, not untold. Black. Uh, so after bishop G3, Black's got knight E8.
Yeah.
I
Let's go
think
somewhere,
we'll
doesn't it?
see. I think we'll see that on the board. I think, and then maybe I mean instinctively I would say knight D3 from White. Knight D3, hinting at E5 or
E5 with
blockading.
check.
Yeah, or more likely blockading. I think with on B4. Because if the minor pieces come off, it depends a bit. I think White might have a chance of holding it. If I were White, I wouldn't get the rooks off.
No, no. Keep the rooks on. Just in case you end up in a drawn rook endgame.
I think so. I think there's more chance of drawing a rook endgame. Clearly, the pawn endgame's totally lost. So you need to keep something on. I think keeping the rooks on. But I think there's still a question about whether White can. Well, how could White possibly win that pawn? It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Black's tied up, but I think Black's holding it. Should we just browse at the other folks?
Yes. Well,
Cowley
got some news from Nick's game.
Cowley.
Wow.
Black resigned. White is victorious. I'm a bit disappointed about that. I'm going to the analysis board. Okay, let's have a look. Let's just flick back. Okay, unfortunately, it looks like a one mover. So Black's better. Black's a lot better. Oh, unfortunately, poor old Black's just dropped his queen. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
In fact, well, it's complicated, right? Of course it's complicated, but the engine, in this position, the engine wants to play knight takes G3 and, oh, of course, knight takes G3, that's beautiful. Because then when White takes on H6, Black takes on E2 double check. Golly gosh. Just a very complicated position and unfortunately just a miss.
Yes.
Okay.
So Nick's gonna be a bit annoyed by that. Oh well, unlucky Nick.
Absolutely. So that's that. Let's have a look at Nigel. Nigel.
Still turning along.
I think.
Okay, so level material. Knight versus bishop. Both for this outside pawn.
Pawn structure the same though. I mean, it's not an outside pass pawn. That's the thing.
No, it's not.
Whose move is it? Black's move.
Yes.
So Black has to stop White taking on B7, which is not hard to stop. White has tricks based on taking on f6. I mean, that actually, you know what? That f6 bishop king setup has proved to be a bit of a frustration, I think. But it looks like black's holding it. Black has got ideas like queen a1 to flush out the white. So it's black's move, right?
Yeah.
So what happens if black plays queen a1?
I was going to say, you have some interesting pack rank problems there, haven't you?
Well, it's pretty hard, I think. I mean, I guess.
I mean, it doesn't look too much. It's not a disaster straight away because the white queen is covering h1 as well. And actually, the knight move actually created a bit of a space as well, hasn't it? So it's not.
So how about this? You play black, I'll play white. So queen a1 for black.
I didn't say it was easy.
Well, I don't know. I've got no idea. So I'm going to take on f6. What are you going to do?
Okay, so
he's not done it.
He's not done it. So can you pin the rook? So I was thinking with the knight takes, rook takes.
I think that's a splendid move, Liam. I think it looks like a really horrible pin, actually.
Yeah, it's not forced, though, is it?
Sorry?
King could take instead. It's not forced.
I think king takes is much more likely because I think. Well, hang on. So let's look at that. Knight takes f6, king takes f6, queen d4 check.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
It's going to forget about the rook, isn't he?
Rook in the way?
No, sorry, behind the rook. So king
queen
e7.
d8 mate.
Very nice. I was looking at queen d7.
Queen d7 is not as good because it loses the whole queen, but queen d8.
It does lose. Thank you for that great analysis there.
Queen d8 is a great move
because it's mate. Yes.
Checkmate in one.
Okay.
So this is quite interesting because I think this might be good for white. So white takes on f6, king takes, queen d4 check. There's no rook e5 because of f4.
Yeah.
And then if you've got to charge the king forward. Oh, he's not played it!
First of all.
Okay, there may be a reason. I guess the king would have to march forward. And I don't like the look of that.
A bit risky, isn't it?
Well, hang on, let's look at it. Because if the king had to march forward, you've got moves like, depends where it marches forward to. Okay, we'll look at that in analysis, I think.
So, sort of queens, probably draw, isn't it? Again.
I mean, the point is, well, put it this way, Liam, if the queens come off and the minor pieces come off, it's very equal. I mean, so, okay, let's think about white. So, well, okay, so queen takes c6, rook takes c6.
You're going to play...
If knight takes... Go on.
Oh, no, I'm saying rook d7, takes the pawn, sort of pawns.
Yeah, that's
nothing very exciting there.
That's a good move. I think rook d7 is a good move in that position. Because you've got to be really careful you don't end up with the rook on c6, the white rook on c2, and then black playing b6, and you're losing a pawn.
Yeah. But what else can white do? Because obviously the queen is pinned to the king, isn't it? So.
Oh, good point, well brought out.
It's kind of forced-ish. Oh, maybe that's why the some of the other stuff. Maybe that's why the. Oh, okay.
I see a draw in the future.
Get your crystal ball out there, Simon.
I've got a feeling this one's a draw. So let's just play king takes, probably get near the centre, because the queen's not dangerous because it's pinned. King takes, queen takes. So king takes f6, queen takes c6, rook takes. Oh, he's taking with the rook.
Well, rook takes. Again, you can't pin it or anything.
I just think it's petering out. Queen takes c6, rook takes c6, rook d7, rook c5, queen b6, rook b7. It's dead equal.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's a draw.
So am I.
Should we look at William Burt?
Let's go to William Burt. Yes.
Okay. I'm confidently predicting this. Eldar is using all of his time. Do you want to look at all the moves?
Yeah, yeah.
Catch up the
It
whole
sounds like
journey.
looks like the interesting one. So we saw move 24, rook d3.
Yeah, that's what we predicted. We predicted rook d3. We predicted queen takes a2.
You then played f3. I'm not quite sure what that's all about.
f3. Well, it's stopping knight g4. And actually,
Yeah,
knight g4 would have been horrible because it's hitting the queen. I mean, so after knight g4, it's forcing an exchange of queens because you've got to play queen e2.
got to stop the mate. Yes, the mate going into
Queen e3 doesn't work because the
7.
knight takes it.
Yeah. So the queen
So,
has to go.
I mean, it's possible that rook e2 works because then when you take on e5, white can take on a2. But that's a bit academic because, of course, so knight g4, rook e2. There's no queen e2 check because then the queen takes and black loses. So the point is, knight g4 was a nasty move. White stopped it.
Yeah.
Black's pinned the rook against the king. The king's undone the pin. Black's doubled on the open file. There's a really nice fork of the knight and queen. It's got the knights off, but black's got an intermezzo check. So the point is now, black's got the better king. Black's got
and better pawns. Let's
yeah,
just
he's
say.
got 2 pawns. He's got a better pawn structure. He's got the better king. Okay, so this marriage slip, I think, has probably got ramifications. So I think I mean, my very
Can you just start pushing the pawns to black now?
exactly. My very shallow analysis would say, if you don't lose on time, Eldar, you're going to win.
I mean, the black queen is actually helping out the pawns because it's distracting white's pieces.
Yes, exactly.
You can't. It's risky to leave the king when it's so close to being attacked by the queen.
That's exactly right. So the problem is
end up somewhere horrible.
Yeah, the weakness of white's king means that those pawns are really hard to stop. So I mean, I haven't thought about it in profound depth, but b5 is calling by the look of it.
Yep. So check. So does the king move or does the rook block?
I think the king's got to move. I don't like the rook block.
No, again, it's really passive. Yeah. King moves. Okay.
Should we? I think this one is gone. That's my view. So my view is it's 1-1. And so I think we're rooting for Tom to bring a draw in, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so.
In what I believe to be a difficult position against a good player. Yeah. Not an impossible position, I think, but difficult. So it's black's move, right?
Yeah. So we're back on Tom's game, are we? Or back on...
Is that all right?
Yeah.
I think
so. Just hit the bishop
very quickly. Nigel's game, I think, is heading for a stone cold draw.
Yeah, I can't see much going on there.
Tom's game.
Well, Tom's now forced to play bishop e5, isn't he? Or knight e5, okay.
Oh
no, that's a mistake, isn't it?
No.
Oh no, there's a fork. There's a fork. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah. He's shot. Oh, but hang on. What about rook a1 check?
Oh.
Rook a1 check from black, I think, ends the game. What?
Oh, we didn't take it anyway.
It must end the game.
Yes, because the fork disappears then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's trying to run low on time.
Sorry?
Well, black's a little bit low on time. He's at 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, plus the increment. So maybe just panic and just want to get... Because there's a lot of game left, isn't there? There's a lot of mistakes to be made in this position for black.
Yeah, I mean, black's got work to do. I mean,
If he wants to
So,
win this, it's going to take him a long time. It's going to take another 50 moves, isn't it? 40, 50 moves for Black to win this.
well, okay, let's have a think about this. I would suggest that Black wants to establish a knight on c4. I see heading for c4. I think if White takes here, this is a technical win for Black. So I think White's unwilling to take here, but otherwise that knight gets to c4, and it's a real problem on c4 because it's threatening. It's just horrible. It's just a good square for it.
In the short term, is the bishop going to go back to g7 and attack that backward pawn?
That's a good idea, Liam. So on this move, yeah. Okay.
So you're right. So how's he going to stop that? Like he can immediately stop that, does it? The pawn, the H pawns, struggling a little bit.
Yeah, he stopped it that way.
Yeah, but White's okay with that. Of course, he's well. Okay, again, Bishop is kind of trapped, but also not really because there's no way.
So the knight can't move, right?
Yeah.
So
which
this
is good for White, surely.
Sorry?
Yeah, it's good for White. Good for White, isn't it? Must be.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you'll see from Black is, I think you'll see King d6 from Black now. Okay.
He's going to try and capture. He's going to try and trap the bishop. You think?
That's a good idea, Liam.
Is it
I don't know. I don't know. So let's say it's Black's move. So Rook g8, Bishop e5, Knight takes, Pawn takes, and then Rook
goes back.
Yeah, I think that's right. So White's got to deal with that, and it's hard to deal with.
Yeah, you're going to end up losing.
Black's going to win this. I think that's the plan.
Yeah.
I think what White would like to do is to liquidate all these pawns quickly. So if all, I mean, it's a tall order. If these kingside pawns come off, got this.
Your audio is just dropping off, Simon.
Oh, is it? If the kingside pawns drop, if the kingside pawns are liquidated, it's a draw. But there's 5.
Yeah, but there's 5 of them on each side.
Yeah. So you know, so go f4, Rook g8, Bishop e5, Knight takes, D pawn takes. I think you just got to start liquidating.
Yeah, no problem. Anything White's got up his sleeve.
I think this is going to be very interesting theoretically. Yeah. Okay.
He's just trying to.
He may even play e4 after this exchange. It wouldn't surprise me. Just in an attempt to.
Good if he can make some space for his bishop to get out.
No, I don't think he's going to play e4. Actually, it's just not right. It's just a whole pawn. Maybe he'll play h4. Pity this. I'm just going to do some naughty flicking to Nigelico. Nigelico, I think, is about to enter a lost pawn endgame.
Why is it lost?
Because the problem is Rook b6, Pawn b6, King e6, and then he's picking up the b pawn. Oh, hang on, let's do it. So let's do it for Black. Rook b6, Pawn b6, King e6, King g5, King d6, King f6, King c5, White takes on f7. Black takes on b6. White takes on g6. Didn't happen.
No, it's all the same idea though, isn't it?
Yes,
You can't take. White can't take because of
White cannot.
No, because again the king comes to d5, doesn't it?
This might be a better version for black. This question now, though. If I
Oh
was
yeah, but can you just take the pawn? Can you just do?
yeah,
Play just rook
yeah, man.
b7.
Rook b7. I think he's got the drawback. So I think rook b7. I mean, rook b5 not quite as good. No, rook b5 not as good because then.
No, because the problem is the same. King d5, isn't it?
But then you have got rook b7 actually. So you could go rook b5, king d5, rook b7, because then white's taking on f7 as well.
No, sort of rooks.
Okay, so white's
Then okay, so now it's yes. King now can't go to d5.
So now I think black's slightly better.
Black's offered the draw.
White offers draw, black declines. Black offers draw. I think black's actually better here.
So
Yeah, so I don't know if that was the right move. This is a very hard one.
So it looks like you play king d4, and then is black going to run out of squares? Is black going to run out of squares? We're going to up in a Zugzwang position.
So here's the problem.
One's all blocked off.
So white plays king d4, black plays king f6. Then what does white play?
Can you play f4?
F4.
Then you just shuffle. Then you just end up shuffling. There's a draw, isn't it? Because you shuffle the.
Yes. Yes.
So because all the squares are blocked, aren't they? The black king will swap between d4 and probably c4, and the black king will swap between e6 and f6.
So you think draw?
Yeah, I think so. Unless there's some sort of crazy sack I can't see.
Well, the only sack there's two sacks, g5 and f4 for black. But
yes.
Okay, so let's look at it. White plays king d4. Black plays f4. White takes. Black plays king f5.
King f5, yep.
White plays king e3. Black plays king g4 and probably wins because the h-pawn queens. So king d4, f4, gf, king f5, king e3, king g4, and the white h-pawn is dropping.
Does he have to take the f-pawn? Does White have to take the f-pawn?
No, he doesn't. So king d4, black plays f4. Then if white plays, what does white do though? King e4. Then black takes on g3, white takes on g3.
Where's the point of the time is ticking by? Nigel's got under a minute now.
Has he? That's not very much time. I've got to move us so that we can see the time. I've moved us. This is all terribly exciting. Should we stay for the end of the? I mean, okay, Tom versus Mohammed has gone to a rook ending, which I think Tom is losing.
Yeah,
these guys have halved out, which I think is probably the right result, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. So I think it's a draw.
Will versus Eldar. I wasn't entirely sure this was a draw, but it's so difficult in such short time. Black offers draw, white accepts. Okay, white was so low on time. Should we look at Tom? Oh, because Eldar's won this. Has he? No, he's not yet. Will's still thinking. Hang on. Will's white.
Yeah, I can't really see much how white is going to win this.
So it's white's move, right? So king g8 from white. Who knows? Just black's got checks all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a similar idea. But the king's just coming out via g5, so I'm not sure what.
Yeah, it's not really going anywhere.
Basically, black just checks until he can fork the queens off.
Yeah, so where are you going then? Oh, we're having complicated positions where it could take you ages to figure out where to actually go. Takes check on the back rank. So queen h8 check, forces king.
King g6.
Oh no.
Queen h8 forces king g6, and black's completely won. Black's won this.
Yes. But it's 4 pawns up.
Yeah, black's taking on g6, whatever happens.
Yeah.
And actually, so it's just over.
The only thing interesting thing to note would be that if the white pawn was a black pawn, and he's forced to go to g5, then he would have queen h4 checkmate. But obviously, it's
nice. That's a creative solution.
Yeah, but sadly, the pawn is the white, so it doesn't quite work, does it?
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't even try to go for that. It's going for the pawn.
So let's have a look. So
is there a way of swapping off queens now? The queen's a bit more exposed now, so it looks like there's probably a better chance to swap it off.
So black has won in the game against Tom.
Yes.
So I think we've gone down, haven't we? I think we've lost 2.
Yes, Cumnor have lost.
Yeah, it's a tough night, but we never lose when you learn, isn't that what you say?
It's not like that. I try to sound positive. So
we never lose when we learn. So
check.
Yeah,
I don't really see how white's going to do anything really. There's no.
Can we just go back and look at this Nigel game, see if knight takes f6 worked? Because I'm just fascinated by knight takes f6.
Of course, we've got about that.
Should we just have a look? On move? Which move was it? Hang on. So it's move. Let's put the good old engine on.
28 was quite interesting.
Yeah, look at that. So it's interesting. So the engine likes knight takes f6 and says it's a dead draw. So knight takes f6.
So what move you on then?
Sorry, Liam. It's it's move. So black played 38 rook e6. Black played 38 rook e6. Then white can take on f6, and the engine likes that. So white's 39th move can take. The rook's got to take. King can't take. Rook's got to take. And then king. I suppose queen e5. But it looks like black can survive that pin. So black can survive the pin. That's the point by queen c6 check.
Of course.
Queen c6 check. But then what if king h2? Can you not just sort of queen f3, queen f3, and there's no rook d6 because there's queen f2 check. Okay, jolly good. And then should we just look at this? Should we just look at the rook and pawn ending?
Yeah.
One for white. Look. Oh no, it's complicated. The engine itself doesn't know. The engine itself doesn't know. Yeah. It's really okay. That'll take some looking at. The engine Yeah, the engine says the table base says it's drawn. Golly gosh. I think that needs proper reflection. That goes beyond a mere video. So I think, do we say congratulations, Cowley?
Yes.
Is that right? Is
How do
there?
I still go in?
Um,
He looks pretty safe in there. Can't see many checks or anything, is there? King's doing a good job hiding in front of these queening pawn, isn't he?
yeah, I think White's right to play on, and it makes sense, but and probably might not know the match situation, but yeah, I think after there's no
Yeah,
stalemate
I mean,
trap.
there's not many checks left, is there? I mean, he can. Well, there's no checks left after
King
King
B1.
B1, but of
Yeah,
course the Queen. So do you just spend the time pushing the A pawn up as well?
exactly. So White's got to move here, and Black's next move is Rook C1, forking the Queen and King. So the Queen's got to run to a place it can't be forked.
Yes.
Hmm.
Can still be forked there because of
Yeah, Queen C1.
Queen C1.
Yeah,
They've played it, so there you go.
that looks
Win
like
for
the end.
Black. There you go, design.
Yay!
Because in case anyone's watching, Queen takes is forced, followed by
And
Pawn takes Queen.
that's exactly right. And now
And
let's look if anyone's ever played Queen F1 before. No,
King F1.
sorry, King F1. Never been played. In fact, B6 was a novelty on move 8 by the look of it.
Yes, sir.
So B6 was a novelty on move 8. All right, well played, Cowley.
Well played.
We're signing off.